What's going on, everybody? Welcome. This is LoreForged, the podcast for Ashes of Creation, and we are your hosts. My name is Jibs, and I'm joined by Mr. Bald and Beautiful himself, Cash.
Oh, I thought you were going to go to Sunny, but it appears he has a head of hair. So, yeah, you're going to me, man. Yeah, it's good. This is good. I've needed the camaraderie this week because it seems like all of us have been missing each other. Not like I miss you. Well, a little bit of that, but like missing each other in like ships in the night, like that kind of thing. Just one person pops in, another person pops out. So it's good to get back on the mics with you guys at least once a week, where we are glued to this chair.
Agreed. And Sunny Ravencourt's here.
I would prefer it if you'd address me as the hero of Czechoslovakia. I've been playing Kingdom Come Deliverance for quite a while now, and I feel like I have really earned my place in the Czech Republic. I realized that Czechoslovakia went away about 20 years ago, but in my brain, I will never not know it as Czechoslovakia because it's just a cool name, right?
It's Czechoslovakia. It's good.
It's good.
It's good.
I feel like in the chat channel, the Czechs and the Slovaks are about to throw down. No,
And
seriously, Kingdom Come Deliverance. I've been on our LoreForged channel because we stream under Ashes of Creation. Ashes of Creation is not out yet, but we will get further news on that. They're going to actually come out with a quarter update very soon. So we have to stream something. And I started playing Kingdom Come Deliverance on hardcore mode. And I cannot tell you how many people have come into our channel and said, what game is this? And it is an amazing game. It is a ton of fun. And it kind of has like sort of Ashes vibes, right? Like, bows and swords and shields and Czechoslovakia and stuff like that.
When you said bows, I thought Czechoslovakians throwing elbows,
Yeah, throwing bows. There is a little bit of that. There's, some drunken fighting and things like that. It's a good time.
It's amazingly open-ended. I played it briefly, and when I had it.
Oh, God, yes.
It's incredible. It reminds me, I know we kind of talked a little bit about this on our State of the Owl episode for our patrons, but it reminds me in a lot of ways of how Morrowind was way back in the day, like old school RPGs. It's like, hey, there's a quest, but you can do it in like 7 different ways.
Yes. And it's an interesting question for Ashes too, because we don't know a lot about Ashes. And so some of us came from way back in the day of MMOs when they were a little bit more hardcore and punishing. And this game I'm playing on hardcore mode, and it is absolutely punishing. Absolutely punishing. I'm going to show you this. This is a visual gag, but I had to write this down and draw little hieroglyphs because my compass doesn't actually show north and south. And so I looked really carefully at it, and this is what I've come up with. So it is just absolutely insane how punishing. Yeah. Well, I'm looking at it as like, these are the pictures that happen at around when I'm facing north on my... It doesn't make any sense.
I'm looking at that. It looks like you might have had a stroke in the middle of trying to make a picture.
It's a seizure out.
It does. We could do a whole show. We might do a whole show on like how hardcore is too hardcore for MMOs, right?
That's a good.
That's a great idea.
Right now.
Write it down. Put it on the list. How hardcore is too hardcore for MMOs? Because man, we have seen it all. We started with the hardcore, and we have moved into the lead by the nose, and now I think we're trending back the other way. So yeah, that's a future show that we're gonna have to do.
I feel like I could answer that, and we could just sum up that show right now as permadeath. Permadeath, too much.
I disagree.
No, thank you.
I disagree. I think if when done right, it can be fun.
Well, so this one, this particular game, this is a lot like Skyrim, right? It's a single player RPG, open world, everything like that. Well, it turns out that in the hardcore mode, you don't actually save unless you sleep, which is kind of like RPG elements, right? Like you got to go to an inn and that's where you save. Well, I played about 2 hours on the stream the first day and then all of a sudden took an arrow to the knee and died, not realizing that I hadn't actually slept in a bed yet. And it was like, hey, guess what? You're dead. New game? Like, no. That was a bit hardcore for me. I don't know if I'm quite ready to do that on an MMO level.
That's pretty intense. That's pretty intense. I wish I could say like mine has been that extravagant, but I'll be honest, I've just been working and content creating and playing Warcraft. Doing the arena grind.
Warcraft, you played Warcraft way back in the day, and Warcraft is a great, that's a great game that has done it all, right? Like it started off pretty hardcore compared to the other ones, and then it's gone one way, and now maybe now you have people like, didn't you like do the classic one?
I would still be playing. Yeah, I genuinely love that style of MMO. I love it more than retail, that styling, but it's just... when you compare it to the features, and plus I know Cash likes to play retail, and when he's happy, I'm happy. So like when he's happy, I'm happy. It's like having a wife that's a gaming wife. Like it's like when wife's happy, smooth sailing, right?
It's exactly like a gaming wife.
It's exactly like that. So when he's happy,
Cash, happy life.
Phone calls are great then. No, but yes, to answer your question, I do genuinely like that style of MMO. It's okay. You can go ahead and talk. It's okay.
Yeah, Cash, you can just jump in anytime you want there, buddy.
I'm like, you guys
you
send
are
me
a professional. Turn on your microphone.
Send me a text message when it's time for me to talk. No, I agree. I mean, I've enjoyed hardcore games in the past. I think that like the last super hardcore game that I played was Shadowbane, but it was like that totally ages me right there.
Oh shit! Wrong with that. I don't even remember that.
That was the first game that I ever experienced being player killed and having somebody steal my loot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's legit.
I was like, I don't like this game. I want my stuff.
What a pack.
That is hard to imagine now. If you got killed and someone could take your loot, that hasn't been in games forever.
That's what New World was supposed to be originally.
Yep.
Really?
And it's about to be in Ashes. I mean, there's going to be certain components of it. And I think the good thing about Ashes is that Ashes is going to take some of the best things of those games and implement them, but take some the least fun things out of that. And like, you won't be able to take all of their stuff that's in their bag.
Right.
Some of it you might, and depending on how corrupted you are or how red you play the game, people might be able to take some of your pieces.
Yeah.
So,
yep, that's gonna be interesting.
Yep,
that is for sure. Speaking of interesting, here's a segue. We got an interesting show for you all tonight. For all of you who are tuning in and listening, I don't know if I said this earlier, but this is episode 17, and this week on the show we are answering number 1, your mail, and number 2, this is our community episode. We're talking about running communities. Now, preface this by saying this: we are recording the eve of the development update. It's just the way our schedules worked out. We couldn't do the recording, the evening of that they're doing their update. So that will be next week's episode. Will be the development update episode. But before we move even further, gentlemen, I would like to issue a huge congratulations to a very big friend of ours of the show, to Vladis Gaming, who had his baby girl.
With the baby!
Baby! Yeah. He did. He posted a picture of him with his brand new baby girl. And if there's anything in this world that gets my heartstrings and just like a harp, it is a daddy with his baby girl.
Oh, yeah, dude. You can just
beautiful
tell
thing.
He loves it. He's loving being a dad. Just some sweet memories and sweet pics.
First kid?
Yeah.
Is that his first kid?
No,
not first kid.
I don't believe so. I think he's got other kids.
I think he has one other. Yeah.
I don't know how many, but I do remember asking, because I think I specifically asked him when he was saying, "Oh yeah, we got a baby on the way." I was like, "Is that your first?" And he said, "No." But it's a baby girl.
I saw that picture in was it on Twitter or something like that? Yeah,
X.
it's something like that. And it just what a beautiful picture.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen.
Congrats.
Yes, 1,000 times over, my friend. Congratulations on being a dad. Gentlemen, we got the mail here. It's in my hand.
I can hear it.
That's for effect. It's not really the mail, but it's
real paper.
It's a visual gag that it's very real paper that I have written on. And this coming to us from our friend Turtle. It says, "Gents, While catching up on episodes, I heard you make a comment about next generation MMOs, Cashco the Wiki, and to update your systems. Has there been any information provided about system requirements, or are there any conclusions that can be made based on Unreal Engine 5? Release is probably a far enough out that it would be a good time to start planning rather than finding out last minute you can't run the game. Da-da-da. I know
this question gives me anxiety.
So on the wiki, that's why I said Cashco the Wiki, there is Alpha 1 system requirements that are there, but that was Unreal 4. That was not Unreal 5. And I will always be a proponent. Look, when you can upgrade, do it. But no, to answer your question, unless there's something I've missed, gentlemen, there are not official specs out yet.
I don't think they're there yet. I honestly don't. And I think the reason being is because when they are closer, as we always say, closer, Clarice, closer, as they get closer to Alpha 2 being released, those specs will most certainly be made available for people, because their goal is they want people to play their game. So they are going to have it as optimized as humanly possible, but at the same time, with the ability to bring out all those beautiful things that Unreal 5 can bring out. So I would say just be patient on that one. We are also being patient on that one. Because once Alpha 2 gets closer, you will definitely have like a minimum spec requirement and then like an optimal spec requirement for it, which could change. That could change with upgrades that they possibly do in between Alpha 2 and launch of Unreal 5. But Unreal 5, from what I understand, is a pretty darn stable platform. So I would doubt that they're going to do too much changing that. I wonder if there's like general specs for Unreal 5, period.
Yeah, I think that you probably should look at like comparable games that are out there. New World would be a good one, right? It's just a modern game. But Unreal 5 is definitely, in my limited PC building knowledge, a very stable platform that I don't think that we're going to have like huge fluctuations. It just kind of is what it is. I think that they are not putting that information out because there's almost no benefit to them doing so. They're still adjusting things, they're changing things all of the time. And until we get to the point where it's like, okay, Alpha coming out in like a couple months, this is what it's going to be. Like, what's the point of telling us specs for something that's so far out and nobody's playing it? You know, it just doesn't make any sense on it. So we'll get it, you know, maybe a month or so before we can actually play it. And then, you know, that will just be the specs for that particular build. That'll be the specs for Alpha 2. And then when we get to beta, you might get completely different specs because they might be making changes. Hopefully we don't get some sort of wholesale engine change again. That would be wild, but I doubt that very much.
If you go to the wiki for Ashes, it says AshesOfCreation alpha testing minimum system specifications. These system specifications have not changed for Unreal Engine 5.
Oh, well, there you go.
And these are...
What's the graphics card?
We'll get there. Just wait for it. Operating system Windows 10 64-bit. Intel Core i3 at 3.3 gig. Or AMD Phenom 2. Graphics card NVIDIA GeForce GTX 750. I think
a whole 750.
A whole 750. I think a lot of people are going to be really nice when it comes to these specs.
I think I have a box fan in the corner of my office here that if I just found a way to like duct tape it to my computer, it might run that.
I think the ignition of my computer uses GTX 750.
Wire up the power button, potato.
The power button uses.
That's got to be like bare minimum though, right? Like as far as FPS is concerned.
Yes, this is the minimum system spec. So you're probably going to be running things on low. Now, okay, let me finish this off. So 8 gigs of RAM, Oh my gosh, a broadband internet connection.
A broadband?
50 gigs of space and a DirectX compatible sound card. Those are the minimum specs. Now moving on to...
You've got mail. Mom, get off the phone.
Oh my God, we're 5.
Yes, you need 2 landlines in order to run this game.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, recommended specs. Same thing, Windows 10 64-bit. Processor, Intel i7 is what's recommended. So, okay, it's a little beefier there.
Yeah, step up.
NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1060, which is like it's the bigger version of your box fan behind your computer, which is not bad at all, not hard to get. Or a Radeon R9 Fury. DirectX 12, 16 gigs of RAM. Same thing, 50 gigs of space and a DirectX compatible sound card. If that's
pretty low.
The way you roll, super low.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Galwood chat says, if you listen to Steven during the UE5 reveal, he says they don't know if specs will change, quote, but will let us know, end quote. So yeah, we'll probably find out around A2 start.
You know, I wouldn't be surprised if that, like, the recommended specs and everything is fine and the game looks great, but like you also had some high end on that where if you really cranked it up, that you might get something beautiful.
Oh yeah, I can't.
Yeah, or you might burn your card. A la Diablo 4.
Yeah, Diablo 4. Watching our friends burn their cards in Diablo 4 was the exact reason why I sent a 100 or what was it, like 265 or 500 FPS limit.
Yeah, you basically set it to your monitor, right?
Yeah,
like,
pretty much.
However fast your monitor goes, your graphics card does not need to go any more frames per second than that. You can't see it. So that was a thing with, like, especially on loading menus, right, where you're hitting like 2,000 and 3,000 frames a second because it was having issues, and all of a sudden your graphics card just goes. And then it's glue. And that's about it.
Yep. Why is my computer whizzing right now?
That's the legit reason I quit Diablo 4. After seeing our friends' cards, I'm like, I just built this rig. I'm not about to buy another 4090. Forget
that. Was the beta, though, wasn't it? Wasn't that the beta?
It happened during release as well.
Beta and release.
Yeah.
Get out. It happened on full release?
Full release.
Correct.
And it was not covered by media, which is quite interesting to say the least. But, you know, like, I'm like, not going to do it.
No reason to take that kind of risk. Not for Diablo 4.
Nope.
No. But anyway, so yeah, we'll keep our eyes on that. And when we have specs and stuff like that, we'll definitely bring it back up on the show. That is for sure. Speaking of gentlemen, coming back on the show, we have a phone caller. We have a voicemail.
A voicemail?
We have a voicemail. Fun fact. Ooh. Okay. Ooh yeah.
Very cool. I like voicemails.
It's a returning favorite. I don't know if he's calling collect from his country, but we'll take a listen. So let's take a listen to the voicemail.
This time I want to talk about the lately thing from
you might want to restart that, I think.
Did I do it wrong?
Yep. Oh. I think.
Okay. Well. Tell them that joke.
Hey, this is live, right? So stand by.
Yep. Hang on just a second.
He's figuring it out.
All right, let's try it now. Right? It's thinking about it. It wants to do it. It's coming. It's on its way. Here it is.
How about now?
Hello, Jibs, Asuni, and the Cash. This Victor from overseas. I call in again. This time I want to talk about the lately thing from Ashes of Creation. The caravan. I have some problem with the system. First of all, in my country, when we ship stolen firearms, I mean totally legal goods. I need to keep that on the DL, you know, just in case governmental agency listening to your stupid show. Anyway, we don't use cart and horse to make transport. What is this, Vera maybe living in the Dark Ages? We use locomotive like every other modern country. Sheesh. So maybe Vera put in a rail system? I don't know. Might be a smart idea. Also, does Vera have a fire brigade? I see video where caravan is afire and nobody make a bucket brigade to put it out. How they sell they burnt AKs? Everyone know fire damage these goods. Anyway, maybe you pass along to people in charge in Vera. So, one last thing. I want you to know I started a YouTube channel. Yes, and I don't have much time, so I just steal other people's videos and I use the AI to get better voice over their stupid talking. It's really fun. And maybe you can donate to my link, too. Somebody has to put the Shubat on my table. Anyway, I see you maybe again when I have more change for make another phone call. I'll see you later. Peace, love, and honeybees.
We gotta have that guy on the show.
Oh my God. Okay. Little background on this. So it turns out that this is actually pretty true. Victor did start a YouTube channel. So someone has started a YouTube channel from overseas. I'm not good enough with languages to determine exactly where it is, but it looks pretty Russian to me. And all of our videos, including the Golden Feather Tavern. Oh, as a matter of fact, I think I'm not sure if the Golden Feather Tavern actually had these because they were longer. They might have dodged this, but like Richie and Ashes of Relation, all these other videos, Sticano, Victor has taken their videos, downloaded them, overdubbed Russian voices onto it, and then put it back up under his own channel. This is an actual thing that is happening right now, and it is kind of hilarious. I thought Sticano's comment was one of the funniest things I'd seen for a while, and he goes, I don't know, I kind of like his content.
I love Sticano. He's got a great sense of humor.
Well, we're hitting the Russian airwaves, so hey.
Yeah.
Tomato.
Number 32 gaming podcast 32. In Russia, according to Apple Podcast numbers.
Yeah. I'm just calling it out. I think we need to have Victor on the show. That guy is freaking hilarious making phone calls overseas.
I'm interested to see how that would work.
Us.
I love it. I
think it would be fantastic. Maybe we have to do it in the middle of the night because it'd be on his time zone, but I was
dying when I saw that. That Victor was the first thing I thought of. Victor stealing all of our videos.
It's Victor.
It's Victor. I love your content. It works so well on my channel.
Oh, man. Oh, that's good. Well, God. Don't forget, friends, you can always call us 516-875-1776, or you can always email us, LoreForgedHQ@gmail.com. Get your stuff in the show. Gentlemen, we talked about doing this last episode, and it was a discussion on community. Now, for those of you who are listening, it came in on the tail end of our episode, and we realized, hey, if we do this now, it's going to be another solid hour at least of just content for the show. And so we give it its own episode. And admittedly, there's really not like a great way to start this off, except it's like, it almost reminds me of podcasting, because it's like at every one of our points in our lives, we were like, I think I want to do a show. It's the same thing for community. I think I want to start a community. Okay.
Yeah, it also works that way with bands. I think I'm going to start a band.
Yeah.
I was sitting at the table at Station 1 with the other firefighters, and I'm like, I don't even know what I was doing, just like having coffee, and I'm like, I think I'm going to start a band. They're like, what? Yep, I'm going to start a band. And so then I started a band. That's how all of this starts. That's how communities start. That's how podcasts starts. That's how bands start. All of this stuff starts the exact same way.
Creating a community, you have to be strong-armed into it. I'm not going to lie on that one. Especially if you've done communities before. I'm really glad that we're bringing this one up, and that we're gonna cover this one, because this is probably something that's looming on the minds of a lot of people who are following Ashes of Creation, because they know that the game it's coming. I mean, it's going to be an amount of time, but the game is coming, and there's no better time than pre-launch than to get something like this going with a really fun guild premise. And some of the things that we're gonna talk about are just like, how do you come up with that guild premise? But pre-launch is a very magical time to have a guild and a community and start making friends, because when that game launches, like, it's go time.
Yeah, so, it's already too late.
Yeah, and this game's going to be a race. It is absolutely going to be a race in a lot of the things in this game to get established, because the quicker that some of these metropoli get established, I think folks are going to realize that it's going to be hard to unseat some of that power. It's going to be an ebb and flow in how these servers work, but the folks that are going to have a leg up are going to be the folks that, well, neckbeard this thing and have done a lot of planning with their guilds before the game even launches. So,
yeah.
There's a person that's on, there's a person that's on our YouTube channel that watches some of our content, and he's posted the same thing a couple times with regards to guilds. And you just sort of brought this up, that it's going to start early and it's going to start big, and it might be one of those things where it's difficult to unseat power. Well, this person has said pretty definitively, too definitively for my tastes, because I don't think you know this for sure, but he says this game is going to be controlled by large guilds. No matter what they do, small guilds are not going to have a place in the game. Large guilds are going to run all of the metropolises, all of the freeholds, all of the stuff, and it's just a large guild game at this point. Now, I've not seen a game where they actually put bonuses in for small guilds. This is something new to me, and it seems like they have actually thought of the concept of how a small guild will compete. So that's a plus. I don't know necessarily whether or not large guilds will dominate like this. JB, do you think that large communities are going to start off early and just nobody else sees anything but their taillights?
I think so, but I think more what you'll see is just a blob of people will be everywhere, and ultimately I think it could very well be you're going to see these things where people are like, hey, I can't beat them, join them, kind of thing, mainly because from a number standpoint. And really, I have nothing to go against this, even from a devil's advocate standpoint, because of what I've seen that's close to this, kinda, sorta, asterisk, is New World. When you saw the big guilds that ran the servers, they ran the maps. And yes, I know that there are buffs, etc., and things that can happen, and alliances, don't want to discount that for Ashes of Creation, but truthfully, in a lot of ways, yeah, I do, because at the end of the day, numbers win fights. You can be buffed, and we don't know what those buffs are. I don't want to downplay that at all. We don't know what they are. It could be groundbreaking, okay? And if that's the case, then foot and mouth, happily shut up. But it until we know that, I'm going off what we know, and it just, typically, it's a numbers game.
Well, historically, it certainly has been. Historically, and New World was just a terrible example, right? Like it just terrible in the way that it was you're so accurate, but you'd see a map and it was just controlled by one color, and you could not unseat them from power. And they had all the advantages, and it was just miserable for other factions. That is, and I'm just going to put this out there, that is my biggest fear for Ashes. Out of anything that we've ever covered in this entire thing, domination of a certain faction, guild, whatever in a server is the thing that worries me the most in Ashes, because it isn't a thing in many games, but it is a thing in Ashes, and it was a thing in New World. And when you saw it in New World, it really kind of destroyed the fun out of it, when you just felt like you had no hope in any of these mechanisms that they built, like sieges and like turnover of cities and all this other stuff. And you're just like, what is the point of all of this if we're just going to get rolled by this one giant faction all the time? There's a lot of stuff in here that is different. Much bigger servers, right? The server size, gigantic. Hopefully they have an eye on it with the mechanisms they're putting in place, small guild bonuses, all sorts of stuff like that. But man, I really didn't like that about New World.
I think right now that I think most people are thinking that that large guilds are going to just run the roost. And I think the reason for that is because that is historically the way that it's gone with games that have those mechanics in place. But the real thoughtful mechanics that are being put in place are the fact that smaller guilds in this game will get more perks, more points to put into that guild tree. I think it's way too early to tell right now because we've only seen maybe a few of the perks that you can get, like faster health regen rates or faster mining or harvesting or things like that. We have not seen how that system is going to be fleshed out yet. It could be that having a smaller guild will make you a force to be reckoned with on the battlefield because of, maybe battleground buffs or something that you get. We just don't know what those things are. Or on the flip side, and as they've said, they're not going to combat this. A larger guild or a larger community making a bunch of smaller guilds to take advantage of all of those perks. So it's going to be a really interesting balance to see how Alpha 2 plays out when a bunch of these larger guilds get in there and start doing that. And then you're going to conversely have smaller guilds that are going to be trying these systems out. So I personally think it's just way too early to tell. I love speculating, but it's just way too early to tell.
Yeah, I agree. I like what Galwood said in chat. It says, in EVE, large alliances could push people around, but there was plenty of room for small groups of players. There is going to be a huge world, plenty of room. Just don't step in front of the Zerg train. I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Tactics.
Yeah, I mean, and he's not wrong. Like, that's exactly how it worked in EVE, right? Like, you'd have these massive guilds doing massive guild things, but then you'd have smaller guilds doing smaller guild things. The problem is when you want it all, right? Yeah. When you're the small guild and you want the big guild things. When you're the solo player, but you want the group content as a solo player, right? Like this is kind of the MMO thing. I want all of the things, and it's difficult to give somebody all of the things. As far as a community though goes, I mean, it would be interesting to see how you take a large guild, carve it up into small guilds and still manage it like a guild. I mean, there's all sorts of ways to skin this cat. Just off at the top of my head, you could have like LoreForged 1, LoreForged 2, LoreForged 3, and you're just like slotting them in like fantasy football. I mean, you could do that, right?
Yeah,
you could certainly do that. But I think I want to kind of transition back to our original thoughts here. And the original thoughts are, when you do make that decision, when you do take the step, because it is absolutely 1,000% a large step when you are stepping into guild leadership. And so when you're starting a community, so say like take us for example, we're starting with community first. Now it invariably is going to happen that our community at LoreForged on our Discord is going to transfer into a guild for the game. Now, one of the biggest questions, and this is it's a huge pivot on what our conversation just was, but how do you actually go about doing that? Like, what are some ways that you think you can really define the purpose of your guild, the niche that your guild is going to have, the platform for your guild? What do you think? What are some of the different ways you can do that?
I think it comes back to keeping it simple and just like, what are your interests? As the GM, what interests you? Because ultimately you're going to be managing this on a day-to-day basis, and you have to be able to invest yourself into what you're managing. And so if you're going to choose an angle or some kind of niche piece of content, maybe you want to be fishing wranglers, and that's your thing. Well, then you've got to love fishing. Maybe in real life, you pull on real life things. Maybe you're a fisherman in real life. I know Tested Weevils in here, and he and his wife go fishing all the time. And, so it's just like, it would make sense if he wanted to be a GM and be a GM of a fishing guild. Totally would get it. That'd be really cool dialogue, especially in Discord. People shooting the breeze, talking about fishing, doing their thing. So I think when you can pull on real life interests and pull them into something that you're already genuinely interested in, period, in a game, it's a win-win, and it makes things a little bit easier because then you're not forcing yourself. You're not putting energy into forcing yourself to invest yourself in what you are creating. It just comes natural.
Yeah, and I think that what you're talking about is basically why MMOs are successful, right? MMOs draw on people's real life experience. If you like economies, you have the ability to do that. If you like action combat, you have the ability to do that. If you like fishing, you have the ability to do that. So I have heard quite a bit from different people, even in our like Discord. Our Discord is not exclusive to people that have to be in our guild. Some people are starting their own guilds and they just like our podcast, and we're totally welcoming of that. But they've talked about like, I want my guild to be people that defend caravans, right? Like they're basically privateers, they're bounty hunters. They want that kind of lifestyle, defending caravans. Yeah. Other people will do the opposite of that. You will definitely have pirate guilds that they all their shtick is, we're going to hit caravans, we're going to hit the seas, we're going to do all this stuff, we're going to loot and rob and do all of that. And that's the identity of our guild. So I think that you see a lot of that stuff, and that is one of the beauties of MMO communities, is you find something that you like to do, and then you find like-minded people that also like to do that, and you build a guild for them.
Yeah, that's the key, I think, right there is we know that there's going to be all kinds of different guilds in there, and Friendly Zombie says, I would love a flower picking guild. That is definitely going to be a thing. There are going to be there's going to be guilds for harvesting, herbalists, crafting. I mean, you're going to have guilds like, for us, as we do ours is mostly going to be based around adults, working professionals, people who might not have a ton of time to play, but still want to get in there and play the game. You're going to have hardcore guilds. Like those are probably going to be your server first guilds. They're going to be there. There's going to be entire PvP guilds. There's going to be role play guilds, trade guilds. They're all going to be there. And I think that really is the first step in figuring out whether or not you're going to run a guild. You have to have some kind of a premise. And I think that's just kind of bringing some of those premises out. Now, so say you've come up with your premise, and now you're ready to start, maybe building the skeleton for how your guild is going to work. Jibs, what do you think is one of the most important things to establish in your guild? This is totally leading. What is one of the most important things to establish in your guild to assure its success?
I'm going to answer that, but before I answer that, I just want to let everyone know who's listening. Cash is easily, hands down, the person who taught me community, and is hands down the best community manager who's never been a community manager at a gaming company I've ever seen in my life. He taught me everything I know about it. He's the one who taught me about the code of conduct. That's what you need.
Yes, and we are all laughing because we have had several codes of conduct in our past experiences with running several communities, and it has always been, I've always described your code of conduct, our code of conduct, as a living, breathing document. Yep. Because just like in the business world, just like in the line of work like that Sonny and I are in public safety, we follow rules, we follow guidelines. We live in a society, people. We have to follow some rules and guidelines. But at the same time, you cannot have a standard operating procedure for every single thing that is going to come across your table as a guild leader.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just like you fly by the seat of your pants and make the best call, the best decision that you know how to make. And sometimes you don't always get it right. Sometimes it's stuff happens, like I think back to Lore Seeker days, like when the community took off, it took off, and we weren't expecting that. That was never in the cards, never a single thought, but it took off, and it became okay, we need to make this call. What's the best call for this? It in a lot of ways, it was proactively reactionary in the way we were making our calls. And it worked out well. You know, we were able to navigate through that. But just from the standpoint of like, hey, it's not, there may be surprises along the way, and you just make the best calls that you can make.
Yeah, I mean, this is another one of those things that I see documents like this, and the lawyer in me just kind of has a small mini stroke. It's like, oh God, so much potential chaos.
Yeah.
We in the legal world, we call it the parade of horribles, like running down the potential terrible things that will happen as a result of X, Y, and Z, and how bad it can go if you make the following decisions. And the reality is this: like every code of conduct that I've ever seen you guys write is with best intentions, and it always has a nice big catch-all at the end. And then if it feels wrong, it probably is wrong, right? Like if it's not working for the community and we three are the ultimate deciders of that, then it's just not working. And I think that despite how detailed you want a code of conduct to be, and they are, and it's better when you do have detail, I think that being able to just kind of be the gatekeeper on your community is a big thing. And Cash, like as far as communities go, I know that you've had to make some tough decisions on things, and I wondered if you could kind of elaborate on like when you are implementing this code of conduct and when you have to protect your community. How does that look when you do something like that?
When you're leading a community, it's very difficult having to take that leadership role. And I think for some folks, it's an eye opener to, holy crap, now I actually have to lead this thing, and I really don't know that much about leadership. So that's why I'm saying, like, it's a massive step when you get in there. You have to be okay as a leader of a community / guild. You have to be okay with making unpopular decisions at times. And that is why this code of conduct thing is not just a bunch of things that you write down. Like, stand on the shoulders of giants when you're creating your code of conduct. Google it, look at it, use ChatGPT, come up with some different things, and then mix and match what you think is going to work for you. Because a key factor in bringing folks into your community is making sure that they have read your code of conduct and they acknowledge in some way that you can come back to that they understand your code of conduct, because that is your fallback. If somebody for some reason breaks your code of conduct, you want to be able to go back to that code of conduct and show them where they were wrong and where they were not following what was asked of them when they joined your community. And I smile when I look at one of the comments in chat. Wizzy McNasty says, don't be surprised when a member quotes your own code of conduct when making their argument. And that's half the reason that suspect their guild exists. And totally understand that, totally get it. Like, I understand that from stem to stern, because we've had that exact thing happen to us on several occasions. And when that does happen and you find yourself in the wrong, also as a leader, you have to be okay with taking a step back and going, you're right. Let's flesh this out. So I do think that, like, we have some I'm sure we're going to get into some stories here. We have had some situations in some guilds in the past where it has come down to us having to separate ties with people. And sometimes it's people who are very well liked in the community. But when people get a platform, especially behind a keyboard, like, you guys know what keyboard warriors are, and you're most definitely going to get a couple in your guild at some point. And you have to be able to ride that fine line between being humble and still being able to kind of lay down the law when you need to. If you can be lightheaded, and lighthearted in the things that you do, then do it. But there are going to be those times where you are going to be called upon to make a difficult decision and separate somebody within your community for the betterment of everybody, because it's not just that one person. that matters. It is the entirety of your community that matters. And that is what you have to base your decisions upon, is your entire community.
Those are tough calls. I know there's been countless times we have not slept well. We have had nights where you do not have a peaceful rest. You're thinking about that situation with the community involved as well. And you're right. It's when you step into a leadership role, you have to be willing to be not liked all the time because of your dedication to the code of conduct and your dedication to the greater community, the greater good. You know?
Yeah, it's very true.
And so it's not always roses, but it's rewarding.
I remember making a couple phone calls to you guys to make sure you're doing okay when you were going through a particularly tough time.
Yeah.
I mean, those are tough days. So here's what I'm going to say to you though. Those are difficult times, but to turn this around in a more positive sense, when you have that code of conduct, I think that it allows people to understand what you're all about as well. And so I want to ask this of both of you. Now, behind the scenes, this is something where these two guys have had very large community before with LoreForged, and then I I've always kind of been a lone wolf when it comes to what I do. We decided with this project, we were going to do a community because we felt like it was the right project for a community, and everything lined up, and we're like, oh yeah, we're going to do it. And all three of us were just game on with this. There was no hesitation with this particular project that we were going to build a community for it. So I want to ask you this, and I'll start with Cash, and then JB can go next. Can you think of a time when you, with the community, were able to look at your code of conduct, or like think of your code of conduct in something in like a very positive way, as opposed to only looking at it as a hammer for the negative?
Yes, and I think the reason for that is because our codes of conduct in the past have always had like a measure of lightheartedness to them. And I say that from there's a couple things that have said, don't do this because, we'll launch the city guard at you or something like that, to where it's lighthearted, but people kind of get the point. So we have always like tried to not seem heavy-handed in certain aspects. And trust me, over the years, I have learned the difference between cutting something off at the head based on a violation of the code of conduct, or really truly hearing somebody out, like to the point to where they're yelling and screaming privately, of course, because it's just leadership. And like a way that I've always done it is you always, if you have to, I hate using this word, but you discipline in private, you praise in public. And so when an issue would pop up, then I would always like, just, hey man, you got a minute? I want to talk to you about something that happened in Discord or in game or in raid or whatever. And then you pull that person aside and you have a private chat with them and you gather all those facts. And I have sat and just listened to people yelling and screaming at me before I just go, dude, you're done. Like that was your opportunity to just explain stuff to me, but you took it to anger immediately, and that's just not how we roll. So I'm sorry, but we're gonna have to separate. And you'll find a guild. There's a guild out there for you, but this just is not the one. And I think that in itself, even though it seems negative, is a positive spin on our code of conduct, because you're not just thinking about that one person. You think about everybody else that you are protecting from that person having that same tirade against another one of your members, which is a freaking nightmare. When now you're getting a DM in the middle of the night, or when you're in the middle of something important at work, you got a DM that says, dude, you got to get in here now. Oh. Dude, I'm working. Like, I can't get in there right now. Can you just act like an adult?
This house is literally on fire.
Yes. And we have definitely had those moments. And a lot of those they go back to our first community with Mog Nation. We've definitely had some of those moments, and some of the most poignant conversations I had with my worst critics are friends that we still have in our Discord to this day. And I love and respect those people for calling us out and having us fix issues that, sometimes we would fix things that they didn't like, and sometimes they would just relent and go, yeah, you're kind of right. So it is an ebb and flow. And a lot of this, in a lot of these guilds and communities, there is an expectation that people are just going to act like adults, but man, do they just not do that sometimes. So I'll default to Jibs with the rest of the, to close out the code of conduct discussion. But I think code of conducts can be taken either positively or negatively. It just depends on what you're trying to get away with.
Yeah, and to kind of go off of that, when you're setting up your code of conduct, especially when you're a content creator, they both play off each other really well. And reason being is this, because when you set up your code of conduct, you in a lot of ways, you set the vibe of what someone's going to be stepping into in textual format. And then I'm just going to use podcasting because that's what we do. If you then you pair that with a podcast where people feel like they get to know you already. Like there's this relationship that's formed when they listen to you every week. And so you combine that with the COC, and genuinely they take care of themselves, aka market themselves, because those kind of people that resonate with you and you with them will naturally come to your community, because after whether listening to the show and reading the COC, they feel like they're a good fit. And honestly, I would probably say 8 out of 10 times that is the case. The people that you get because of the way you set up your COC, and if you're doing some kind of show or some kind of content creation that's resonating with people, it plays really, really well. And you get this really good mix of people who are then a part of your community, and oddly enough, in a lot of ways, are just like you, because you've garnered the people that you resonate with and vice versa. And so it just works out really, really well.
I agree there a lot. And again, like Wizzy is just crushing it with some of these comments in there. I love it. The funny thing is, like, we have Gone Crazy Back Soon, Katie, a wonderful friend of ours, and she took over the Lore Seekers Guild for us. And we've had many conversations about guild leadership with her, and her co-leader just absolutely crushing it over there. It's still working really well. But Wizzy says leadership has to understand sometimes they are the problem. Guilds fail when they refuse to self-reflect. And I got to tell you, like, I dwell on this stuff because gaming is my hobby. The game that I'm playing, the community that I'm in, it's so, so, so important to all three of us, that, just like Jibs was saying, I literally have lost sleep over it, over some of these situations, because I always want to give everybody a fair shake. I don't like conflict either, but if conflict is standing in between homeostasis of my community or our community, then it is what it is. You don't have to like me. You don't have to like the choice that I'm making. But if you are an issue, then you might be going away, or we might be having a pretty cool talk at first. But I have to tackle those problems. If you don't tackle those problems, then they just do nothing but fester. There are quite a few things, and I know that I think we're pretty good at this, and I know that we're going to get even better at this as time goes on and as our community here within Ashes grows. But one of the biggest things that I think is getting your members engaged and kind of just getting them wrapped around what you want your guild to look like, your community look like. And I'm going to I'll pass this on to Sonny first. One of the biggest things that I think is most important, Sonny, and I'll let you elaborate on this, is just being present, being there, talking to people, playing games together, hosting events. Like, what do you think of that kind of stuff?
Well, okay. So I was going to take this in a slightly different direction, but I agree that it kind of dovetails on the next question that I was going to ask, which is how, if you are starting, if you are not a content creator like we are, we have a platform. We can say, come join our guild. And there is going to be people out there that listen to this show that will then go, oh, I should join their guild, right? Like it's done. That transaction has just happened, right? But if you are not a content creator, my question was to you guys like, okay, well, how do you start a guild? How do you entice these people to come join, and how do you build that kind of thing? And that to me is kind of the answer on that, is that like you have that kind of experience. When we've done guilds in the past, I wasn't running the guild, but I certainly had a big hand in making fun things for the guild members and making events and having fun with things like the famous one is our Thermopylae event, but we did other things. We would do races up the puzzle races and all sorts of different stuff and things like that. And that was just one way that we were able to say like, hey, this is a thing. But if you're not a content creator, what are some strategies for enticing people to come play a game with you and join your guild? I mean, one way is to wander around Ironforge and say, I'll pay you 10 gold to join my guild. That is a tried and true method.
I'll tell you right now, I think one of the most ingenious ways is have a 100% all the time in character dwarf guild.
Yes.
What do you think, Nogly?
Are you a dwarf all the time? Join my guild.
Yeah.
I love it, man. Oh gosh, I love it. I think it's, whenever I think of stuff like that, it's I would go back to go to the people where the people are at. And is at forums, which is very much used in Ashes of Creation, and not to mention the Discord server. Be very detailed about what you're about, and post the COC there if you wanted to, if it's allowed. Do whatever you need to do, and truthfully, it may involve some more checks and balances and getting things set up from a bot standpoint when it comes to Discord, because ultimately you're going to need to have a Discord server or some kind of place where people can gather. But you're to kind of at the onset of when these people are joining, maybe having a few more things, checks and balances in place. Just because you don't have that maybe that communal space if you're a creator or something or what have you, and that's just to protect you and your community. But ultimately, I think it's just I want to be where the people are. Just go where the people are and meet them and talk with them.
I love your idea about posting your COC. Why couldn't you on any recruitment forum? Don't go to Reddit. Don't get your members from Reddit. Please do me that favor. If you say you were to go to the forums for Ashes of Creation and you're to start your recruitment there, why could you not put your code of conduct in there? Because that immediately establishes, what your limits are, or the way that you want to run your community. I mean, if people have they can believe in your fundamental beliefs of how you want to run this thing, then they're going to understand what they're getting into based off of your tone.
Oh, great.
And based off of some of the rule sets that you have in place. I think that's a fantastic idea.
And I'm going to go one further on that. And I'm going to say that like the code of conduct is one part of it, but you could build a guild the same way that we build a podcast. And that is to find something that makes you, right? Find something that really would bring people to you. It's hard to build a guild with no identity. If you're like, I'm looking for gamers that play Ashes. Great. Okay.
You've come to the right place,
You've
sir.
come to the right place. It's a good start. It's a good start. Maybe a little more specific next time, right? So it's like, okay, I'm looking for gamers that are mature adults that are, that have working lives, that don't have that kind of time to spend all day long playing game, but still want a community. Okay, now we're talking, right? I'm looking for gamers that are interested in the economy of the thing and are looking to run some caravans for fun. fantastic, right? Now you're starting to build this kind of community that, yeah, I mean, you can delve out from that. There's nobody in this game, including myself, that is so hopped up in the economy that they're not going to want to do some PvP every now and then. It's just the way that it goes. You will always branch out from that kind of stuff, but building that identity, the identity of LoreForged and the identity of us as gamers has always been that mature adult gamer guild. That's just who we are. That is the core fundamental principle of it. And then we branch out from there, right? Then you're going to get all sorts of little fingers into all sorts of parts of the game. But that's who we are. So if you have an identity and you have an idea on who you are, then build a guild out of it.
Yeah, agreed. And I would take that one step further in kind of a different way when it comes to identity. Presentation is everything. And you only get that presentation once. You get that initial whoa once, only, ever, once. So if you're going to start a community, this may be kind of a little bit of a left turn, but invest in whether it's a friend or Fiverr it or do whatever you have to do to create a visual presence as well. Because what that also conveys is not only in your COC, but in the visuals that you portray to the people, whether it's a logo for your guild, a banner for your guild, that puts off a vibe as well. That is going to make them feel a certain way in addition to the COC. And it's attractive. People like pretty things. You give them something pretty, they're like, oh, shiny. It's like a fun fact for Sunny. You know, so yeah, exactly. So I know it's a little bit of a left turn, but truthfully, that is very much in my head. It's something that you want to have as well. The more professional you can look, the more fun it looks. You know, it's more inviting for people. It's beyond just text; it's image.
Can I take it a step further?
How many steps can we go?
There's a lot of steps.
One more step. Okay. We're moving.
I want to give it one step further. If you're trying to build a community, this is an RPG. Like we are going to be playing a massively multiplayer online RPG, which means people, even though they say they don't, everybody loves a little role play. So if you have a good premise for your guild, write something up in character. Have your COC be in character. Have your message to your prospective members of your new community be in character.
And then hold on.
People love that shit. Like they seriously do, man. It is way too much freaking fun. And like, I will flat out say this right here as a teaser. I cannot wait to start recruiting for our guild because we have some really freaking cool little RPG elements that we're going to throw into our guild recruitment. It is just going to be a super fun deal. And just like we were saying, you know, we jest about the Dwarf Guild all the time, but these guys are crushing it. They're doing a great freaking job with that. It looks so attractive. We have one of our members in chat, Carl, I know you're out there. He wants to start a Nakua guild. I mean, okay, that sounds freaking, he like pitched it to me. I was like, dude, we will freaking support you as much as possible because that sounds amazing. Just a coastal node type guild that is all Nakua. How freaking cool is that? It's just, there's little things like that you can put in. There's that flavor that you can put in there when you're trying to bring folks in. But what I will say is have a plan for it. Once you do get those members, you got to follow through on stuff like that. So if you're going to advertise something as, hey, this is our theme, this is what we're going to do, and you're going to add those RPG elements in there and that role play flavor in there, you do have to have some follow through with the way that you actually execute it.
All right, I'm going to put a bow on this since I feel like I'm kind of the moderator of this one, having the least experience in running a guild. But this is a nice question to end on. How do you measure success after you have built a guild? What does success look like to either one of you guys?
Cash?
I think that a measurement of success for me is you are going to know it. you are absolutely going to know it. If you've hit some of these things that we've talked about, if you're present for your guild, if you're putting on guild events, if you're managing problems and making toxic people go away, you're protecting the sanctity of what you're trying to build, you will see growth continue. And it's not just for content creators that are starting communities and stuff. You guys, like, we are vastly in the minority here with the people who are going to be running guilds as content creators. There are so many more guilds out there by just folks who are just advertising with a really cool premise and people are diving in. When people show up and they stay, that is a massive indicator that you are doing something right. When the toxicity is low, when you've gotten things set up, and I want to go over a few things here before we completely wrap, just some closing thoughts on it, but I'll do that in a minute. I'll go ahead and default to Jibs for the rest of the answer on this one. But I really think that you are going to know whether or not your guild is successful or not. No infighting. You're just going to feel it.
Yeah, I agree with everything he just said, and I want to add to that. I think it's also when you can sit back and just watch your Discord server at night and just watch it and watch the relationships form, watch the friendships that form. There's people over who met through lore seekers who got married, man. Like,
yeah, legit.
What? You know, like, it's just like, when you can watch stuff like that and you watch friendships that are now like lifelong friendships, even beyond the couple that got married, you know, just like, and you watch it go, and you watch the people who, to me, there's a sense of pride that they form, because it's not like like us three. It's not our community. It's their community. And you see that pride of protecting that community rise up in them whenever something, you know, maybe someone who's clearly not there, should not be there, you know, they just rise up to defend, like, hey, this is our neighborhood. You've come into our family. And so we're going to protect this adamantly. And when you can sit back and just watch that, and you never have to say a word. You never have to say a word. It will, at some point, like Cash was saying, well, he wasn't saying this specifically, but what he was saying in addition to was, eventually your community will get on autopilot once everything's all set up. I mean, yes, it'll be like bumpers on a bowling alley, but in a lot of ways it becomes on autopilot because of all the lay work that you do up front. And then you get to reap the rewards of just watching these relationships form, watching people take pride in that community. It means something to them. It's more than just a game. It's more than just community. It's like family, and it becomes something really, really special. And that, to me, I think is success. Numbers don't matter to me. Quality is what matters. And if quality is 5 good quality people, that's 5 good quality people that are in a family with you. And it's really special.
Vertec had an excellent point in the chat, and he said, a great sign of success is when somebody walks up to you and says, I've been thinking about leaving my guild because of X reason. I've run dungeons and adventures with a lot of your people. Do you have an opening? And that means that people are outwardly happy to be in your guild and represent it well. And that's a lot of what you were saying, JB. Like, you're seeing it. People are very tribal on that, and they will defend their own tribe. But on top of that, they're going to tell everybody else how much they enjoy the time that they're having in their guild.
Yeah.
And when that kind of stuff is happening, you're not asking them to go out and do that. You're not asking people to go out into the community and not be a-holes and to tell everyone how great our guild is. Like, nobody does that. They either do it or they don't. And that is certainly a measure of success. We're running into the end of the show here, so I'm going to give you the opportunity to give me some final tips. And I'll start with Cash. Cash, do you have any final tips on the concept of community and guild and everything like that for the people on this show?
Yeah, I do. I have some bullet points here that I do want to talk about, but I don't want to scare anybody away from this when I say that guild leadership is no joke. Like, if you want to do it right, you really do have to kind of commit yourself to the role of a leader. And like I said before, people might not always like the decisions that you make, but This is the community that you are trying to build. And as long as you have the best of intentions in doing so, and you know, you're not being an a-hole about things, I think people will really be able to get behind you if your premise is good. Do not be afraid to make those unpopular decisions if you need to in order to protect the majority of your guild, because you will never, ever as a guild leader be able to satisfy everybody all of the time. Somebody will invariably butt heads with you at some point. And whether or not you retain that person or retain those people that do that, it all comes down to how you interact with them. I mean, it's very, very important to always default to kindness. So I will say, if you're going to start a guild, then you really got to make the choice to do it right. And we know it's a game, but just, you know, leading these communities really does require some good leadership principles. So get that COC, get a really good COC. If you want to steal ours, steal it. It's there for your use. Steal the thing that we've had and that we've really massaged over many years of guild leadership. Make sure you have good mods, good people that you trust, good officers that you really do trust, and really do have some sort of a vetting process to get those people in there, because you cannot do the entirety of guild leadership by yourself. There's just no way. When you run into issues, praise in public, discipline or investigate issues in private. It's super, super important that you do that. Nobody wants to be embarrassed over, you know, stupid gaming stuff. Have some kind of a daily schedule, daily events that you do, weekly events that you do. Set that thing up, have a calendar. All those things are really, really good for keeping people engaged and keeping people coming back. Always have your eye open for leadership potential. When you have people out there that have become good friends, people who are inadvertently leading groups and they're just crushing it, you put that person in your back pocket, you have a little conversation with that person, say, how would you like to come in and be part of our guild leadership team? And those people are usually so freaking stoked. And then you take those officers that you make and you empower them to go out and just do your bidding. You empower them to go out and do guild events and run things on their own and just give them the tools that they need to do to succeed. I'm going to leave you with this final thought. And this is why it's so critical, why guild leadership, when you really want to do it right, is so critical. If something goes wrong, it is always the guild leader's fault. It sounds harsh, but that is ownership. If something goes wrong, you must have missed something somewhere. So take that time, just like we were talking about with the chat, to self-reflect, think about where you went wrong, talk to your officers, and fix those issues. If anybody ever wants to talk guild leadership, join our Discord, send us a DM, send us a message, hit us on Twitter. I will talk about this stuff all day. I love this kind of stuff. So we are open to you as a resource.
Now follow that, JB.
Nope, I'm just going to take in the outro unless you have something, because that's not happening.
No, I think we're into the outro.
Okay, fantastic.
I'm sorry, Jibs. I didn't mean to roundhouse kick you in the nuts.
This is your wheelhouse, right? Like,
I love
this is
stuff.
like, hey, let's do an economy show, and we're going to try to put the reins on Sonny for 60 minutes here. Like, this is guild leadership, right? Like, this is your baby. We knew this was going to be the case. This is something that before we even started this whole project, we're like, Cash, we want to run a guild, get ready. And this is exactly what we expected. So to do a show on guild leadership is just, I mean, we're throwing softballs to you here and letting you knock them out of the park. And I think you did so.
Thank you. I'm smiling like this is my wheelhouse. I love this stuff. Come join us. It's going to be super fun in Ashes, I swear.
Good times. Oh, well, thank you everyone so much for taking time to push play. Come check out whether you're watching on YouTube, which a lot of you do, or maybe you're listening on the RSS feeds. Thank you so much for checking out LoreForged, and we hope you enjoyed your time here and learned something today, most importantly. That you can apply to your guilds or community. So if you enjoyed the show, please take a moment. Tell us how we're doing. We've been around for 17 episodes. We have maybe less than 10 reviews. And so I'm putting the challenge out there. It doesn't matter where you're from. If you've enjoyed your time here after you're done, take 30 seconds and leave us a review. For every written 5-star review that we get on Apple Podcasts, we will happily read those right here live and on the air. But we genuinely do want to hear from you. and let us know how we're doing, what you think we could do to improve, add the show, etc. Just let us know. And of course, you can always call us 516-875-1776. Try to keep your voicemails around a minute or less if you want to play it here on the show. And of course, you can always email us, LoreForgedHQ@gmail.com. Get possibly featured right on our mailbag segment. Sonny.
You can find the links to all of our stuff at LoreForged.com, including YouTube. Go to youtube.com/@LoreForged for all of our YouTube stuff. It is not coming out at the blistering pace that we initially started it at, but it is regularly coming out. So we're trying to get you a brand new video at least once a week. And of course, the show is always on YouTube as well. Plus shorts. Shorts are a thing for Gen Zers, I guess. You can go to twitch.tv/LoreForgedHQ if you want to follow me through 15th century Bavaria. And also talk about Ashes of Creation at the same time. It's a fun, we're building a fun little community there on Twitch. It's a good time. Plus you're watching it right now, so that's great. Patreon, get all of our content early on Patreon, plus the State of the Owl, which is our exclusive After Dark episode once a month for the patrons. And that is at patreon.com/LoreForgedHQ. Cash.
I think we need to drop more F-bombs on our After Dark show. I'm throwing you. You're going to throw a gauntlet for reviews. I'm going to throw a gauntlet for us to say the F word more.
I'm so conditioned, and you just freely, you just let them go. You're so natural.
You're so natural.
I think out of all the ones that we've done, what are we on? Four State of the Owls or something like that?
4 or 5. We just did the one yesterday.
I haven't said the F word once.
No, that's not true.
That's not true.
That's not true.
That's not true.
What?
No.
That's absolutely not true.
No.
Oh my God. Okay.
We're gonna have to go look at that. Where's my red flag?
I love you like my next
throw a
breath,
review
but
on
that's
this.
not true.
F you guys, you're so judgy. Friends, if you want to join our Discord community, I think we freaking beat the hell out of that dead horse tonight, but we do have a good time in our Discord community. Everybody's welcome, content creators, players, anybody who wants to come in. And like I said, you guys want to come in and talk guild leadership so you can, fly off and build your own guild, then come on in, man. We'll chat about guild leadership. We'll help you however we can. You can follow us on X. Jibs is at Jibs IRL. Myself is at Cash Quests, and the Cash is with a K. Sunny is at U of Coruscant, and don't forget to follow the show at LoreForged HQ. Friends, we have a couple of new Discord members. This week we got Gubak and Wildstrike. Wildstrike is actually a friend of ours from a bunch of years back, and we're really happy to have him along with us on this ride. Another thing I wanted to mention, Sunny put a really cool video out a little less than a week ago on guild classes. Super cool. I mean, we're talking guilds tonight, so we might as well kind of throw this one out there. Guild class is kind of a super cool, like wall of crazy type idea that he has about like guilds that specialize in certain things. And I thought it was a very, very interesting video that he put out. There's a couple little funny things about my height in there, which I got a good kick out of as well. But anyway, if you're interested in absorbing some of your content for Ashes of Creation via YouTube, then we have some really fun videos that we've been putting out. So anyway, that's that.
Friends, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you, and you have a wonderful week in gaming, and we will see you back here next week on our roundup of the development update on artisanship. So take care. Have a great week.
Peace, love, and honeybees.
Safe travels, adventurers.